In June 2011, Juan Ramon Sáenz, the most prominent paranormal radio host in Mexico, contracted an aggressive respiratory infection. Within days, he was dead. The tragedy quickly multiplied. Exactly 1 week later, a well-known Catholic priest died under similarly sudden circumstances. A television cameraman required emergency hernia surgery, and a field producer barely survived a violent car crash on a deserted street. Investigators looking into this cluster of misfortune found a single link. Exactly 10 days before Sáenz died, every one of these victims had been present for the same television production, an interview shot in the middle of the night on a small boat. The verifiable timeline of these deaths moves the case beyond folklore and into the realm of a documented medical anomaly. The subject of that midnight interview was a man named Josué Velázquez. He had agreed to appear on the investigative show Extranormal, but only under strict conditions. He completely refused to show his face to the cameras. Throughout the broadcast, he insisted on tightly gripping a collection of symbols and an actual human bone. His most unyielding demand involved the guest list. Josué insisted that Juan Ramon Sáenz, the host who had first covered his story 9 years earlier, had to be brought out onto the water with him. Understanding why a man would orchestrate such a specific meeting requires returning to a notorious late-night radio broadcast from 2002. It was October 2002. Across Mexico City, listeners were tuning in to La Mano Peluda, a wildly popular call-in show dedicated to horror stories and paranormal encounters. The host, Juan Ramon Sáenz, fielded a call from a man identifying himself as Josué. He spoke respectfully, projecting the image of a polite listener. Then the tone shifted. Josué explained that he had grown up in extreme poverty. Since 14, his desperation had driven him to acquire a book of dark magic. He taught himself Greek, Latin, and Hebrew so he could perform the rituals inside it, hoping to conjure wealth. The rituals escalated. After months of animal sacrifices, Joshua awoke one night to a heavy crash in his living room. He found his mother unconscious on the floor, being dragged by a humanoid entity resembling a pig walking on 2 legs. Following the creature, Joshua retreated to an isolated cave on the outskirts of town. He spent 21 days there, executing rites until the entities offered him an artifact they called the Ring of King Solomon, a talisman promising wealth. Financial desperation often blinds a person to the long-term costs of the deals they make. Joshua accepted the ring, ignoring the requirements attached to it. On the live broadcast, his voice began to break. Breathing heavily, Joshua confessed the final condition of his pact. To secure the ring, he had drugged and ritually murdered his own grandmother. The artifact delivered exactly what was promised. Josué moved to the United States, landed his dream job as a bacteriologist, and accrued immense wealth. But the ring fused to his skin, and the entities it attracted began to physically manifest in his home to torment him. Seeking to help his caller, Sáenz arranged for a follow-up broadcast. He brought a Catholic priest, Father Roberto, into the studio to perform a live prayer of protection over the phone. As Father Roberto began reciting the invocations, the radio feed picked up a chilling anomaly. Distinct, layered laughter started bleeding through the static, directly mocking the priest's words. The intervention lasted for 30 minutes. Instead of breaking the attachment, the prayer triggered intense physical pain, forcing him to beg Sáenz to cut the line. He then vanished from the public eye for nearly a decade. For those listening, the broadcast moved beyond a simple anecdote about spiritual distress. The persistent, audible mockery of the prayer left the audience with a recording that defied standard technical explanation. Reevaluating the 2011 interview involves looking past the television production and focusing on the specific physical mechanics of the meeting. Josué's specific demands take on a different character in this context. Surrounding himself with water acted as a known occult barrier, while his violent physical twitches indicated he was actively fighting for control of his body. This schematic maps the boat. Notice the subject's right hand, covered by a black glove. Watch the greetings. He extends his left hand to the interviewer, but approaching Juan Ramon Sáenz, he deliberately reaches out with the gloved right hand. This leads to a chilling theory. Josué did not go on television to tell a story. He used the broadcast as a ritual to pass his demonic attachment onto those who had answered his call for help. The footage documents an immediate reaction. Within minutes of that handshake, Signs becomes visibly restless, repeatedly clutching his chest in severe pain. Following the deaths of Signs and Father Roberto, investigators noted one final detail. Josué's right hand was bare. The ring was gone. Josué denies intentionally harming the men. He claims he later shed the ring by gathering 7 Catholic priests and recreating his original sacrifice to trick the entities into letting him go. Josué Velázquez walked away from the encounter physically unburdened. The men who attempted to aid him were buried within a month. The man who confessed to the original crime remains free, while those who answered his call went to their graves.